Few cities can rival Boston as a place to learn about American history. That also goes for events happening in Women's History Month. Among those taking part is our guest, an actress and historian who's also the founder and artistic director of History at Play. To tell us about History Camp and an upcoming performance in musical theater, we'd like to welcome Judith Kalaora. Thank you very much for being with us,
Thank
Judith.
you, Chris.
I want to start with something that certainly sounds new to me. I know you do all these figures, but musical theater, what have you got in mind here?
Yeah, so we saw that the success of the Hamilton musical was really something profound that spread across demographics, across the region, across the ocean to other countries. And we wanted to sort of use that momentum and bring light to some of the local founding families of Boston. And one of the founding fathers and founding families that doesn't seem to get as much credit as Samuel Adams, John Adams, Paul Revere, is Hancock. People know him for his signature, they know him for his building, they know him for his insurance company, but they don't really know him for the active role that he took, not only leading into the American Revolution, but as the president of the Second Continental Congress, and then as the first non-royal governor of Massachusetts. And really, his work leading this Commonwealth begins after the American Revolution, and his story, along with Dorothy Quincy, for the Quincy namesake, their story together, how they led this town, how they led it through the Revolution, and then thereafter, is unbelievable. And it sets really nicely to music. So we were able to take sort of the template from the Hamilton musical, which Lin-Manuel Miranda very craftfully created, and use parody to create a musical entirely new unto itself that really reflects one of our local founding families and how they contributed to the effort.
Well, a lot of people in Boston know about Abigail Adams, but Dorothy Hancock, what should we know about her?
Yeah, Dorothy Quincy was related to Abigail Adams. She had come from the Quincy namesake. Her work she's known as a supreme hostess extraordinaire. There's a wonderful story about, French troops being brought into their house, which was up on Beacon Hill, where the State House now stands today, was the gardens of the John Hancock estate, and she doesn't have enough food to give to all of these soldiers, so she tells the servants to go out and milk every single cow on Boston Common. Boston Common was, of course, the public common land, and you could let your cows graze there. And she said, take as much milk as we can, we need it all, and we will reimburse every single townsperson whose cow we have milked. And so they were able to provide food and beverage to all of these soldiers and dignitaries who came to their home on such short notice. And she's also really well known for just being really appreciated by the townspeople. And when John Hancock dies, fairly young, she is very lonely, and she does take up a new marriage to a gentleman who had worked for Mr. Hancock named Captain Scott. And people are really surprised that she would give up the name Hancock. But remember, she was a Quincy before she was a Hancock, which is as much, if not more, an admirable namesake to have.
Well, the name Adams is very well known, but it's hard to find a greater contrast between two people with the same name than John Adams and Sam Adams. Tell us about them.
Yeah, so they're second cousins, and we represent both of them in this musical theater production, The House of Hancock. And so you really get to see the competitive rivalry, but also the sort of the compatibility that they have with one another. So Samuel is often known as a mob leader. He really is the one who's motivating these young men and these middle-aged men to partake in the Sons of Liberty, to do whatever needs to be done to find a way to throw off the tyrannical rule of Parliament and King George III. John Adams wants to negotiate. He wants diplomacy. He wants to set up a contractual agreement where we separate peacefully. Samuel Adams is much more adamant on doing what needs to be done, and if that means war, then so be it. And John Adams really does feel that once we get to a point where negotiation doesn't seem to be working, that's when he starts to sort of throw in his support for bringing this to a rebellion, bringing this to a full-scale rebellion against the greatest empire in the world.
And of course, one of the things we've been reminded of recently was that John Adams defended the British troops who were accused of the Boston Massacre.
Absolutely, and one of my favorite stories is that he actually didn't receive any payment or reimbursement for that. He said, these men, we will show Parliament. We will show King George III that we have a civilized and just society. And if I have to defend these men in court in order to show that our justice system is legitimate, then so be it. And he does support and defend these men, and they are acquitted. He finds over 40 witnesses to stand on that, stand and give their testimony on that in the courtroom, and that is a huge aspect of how our justice system does show itself to be truly legitimate and equal and just.
Because we keep calling them British troops, but a lot of them were not exactly English.
No, Irish. There were even.
Oh, for the West Indies too.
Of course, yeah. And later in the war, when England realizes that they don't have the manpower necessary, they hire Hessians, who are German troops as well. This is a world war. I mean, it really is. The American Revolution is unlike, many revolutions where we do see not only economic influences from outside powers, but really, truly military influences coming in from all over the world as well.
This has been the news. We're talking with Judith Kalaora from History at Play. Judith, we talked about the individuals here, about, you orchestrating this, you've got music involved.
Yeah.
What's this going to look like?
It's very exciting. We've actually debuted it a little while ago, and it was performed in Lexington for Patriots Day weekend, and it was sold out, and it was a standing ovation, and people knew enough of the songs that they could sing along, but they didn't know it because it was about a different person. So it was really, really wonderful for folks who are familiar with the Hamilton program, because they were able to see the similarities in the life of John Hancock as opposed to the life of Alexander Hamilton, but it's different enough that it's so new that it's really, really a very unique experience. So it is a musical. We have some of the most talented performers in Boston who are a part of it. Nicole Vanderlaan, Dan Pryor, who is a co-writer as well as music producer, Sarah Gazdowicz, Matt Goldstein. These people are all some of the most profoundly talented people that I know. And we get to put on this program that is truly interactive, meaning you get to sign the Declaration of Independence as an audience member. You get to come up and be a delegate at the Continental Congress. You get to perhaps portray Paul Revere or a town crier. So it's family friendly. It's very educational. We did much of our primary research at the Bostonian Society, which is the old State House downtown. And we were able to get real wonderful letters and resources written by John Hancock to Dorothy Quincy and vice versa, where we could see their words in their own writing with their own hand and use that to incorporate it into the script.
One other event you're going to be involved in during March is History Camp. This has been going on for a while. What's this like?
History Camp is a event that's been coordinated by a gentleman named Lee Wright, who's very, very insightful, very, very forward-thinking. He's able to create this camp, this one-day camp where over 300 people from all over the United States come and we participate in these seminars. And so anyone can speak who has a topic that they feel strongly about, and you are able to select through the course of the day which seminars you'd like to listen to, each one lasting about 45 minutes. And then at the end of the day, we are fortunate to be the official sort of finale for History Camp, History at Play, bringing the House of Hancock, the Hamilton-inspired musical, to History Camp.
Probably I have to ask you about one other figure. You've played again this year, and I think you will again pretty soon as well. A leader in the rights for women to vote, Lucy Stone. She's from Dorchester.
She is.
Why do you spend so much time portraying her?
Well, suffrage is a very important topic to me. It has been for many people throughout the years, and it's still something. Voting rights and voting equality is very important in the United States and abroad. The women of the United States will celebrate the 100th anniversary of their ability to vote in 2020. I have been portraying Lucy Stone since about 2011, 2012. Since we are now approaching this landmark celebration, I've become much more aware of how important her role is in our society and our nation's history, and so have other people. So we've been receiving a lot more inquiries for performances for Lucy Stone, and we'll be performing as Lucy Stone throughout the month of March, which is Women's History Month. One program we're doing is in Pembroke at the Pembroke Library. You can look at our website for our upcoming events to see which ones are close to you in your area. And Lucy Stone is one of the most influential and often forgotten women in the women's suffrage movement. She is the one who inspired Susan B. Anthony to join the cause. And she really doesn't get the credit that she deserves.
And if you look through her lens at what happened in the last election, 2018, how does that make you feel? If you look at what happened in Congress around the country.
Oh, with more women now being
Yeah.
voted into Congress than ever before, I think it's really special, and I think it says a lot. You know, one thing that Lucy says, and I actually was just watching a documentary about Ruth Bader Ginsburg yesterday, one thing that these women say is, you know, we're not asking for special treatment. We're just asking for the same treatment that men have received all along. And that's something that I feel we're finally getting, finally.
Well, finally, we should mention that if people want some more details about upcoming performances, especially the musical theater, what's the best way to check that out?
Yes, so you can go to www.historyatplay.com. Upcoming events, you'll see the House of Hancock listed there on March 16th, and that is the day before St. Patrick's Day. It's a Saturday. It'll be at Suffolk University Law School, which is located at 120 Tremont Street in Boston, and you can actually purchase tickets directly from our website. It will bring you to the Eventbrite page where you can purchase tickets there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judith Kalaora from History at Play.